Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Paul N Palz Podcast is brought to you by staying positive and never giving up.
Bye.
Here's your host, Paul, with special guest, Dan, the man, Dan.
And then the gory, yeah.
So I remember Rob Zombie. He went in and he made a trilogy of these characters. I never saw the third one. The second one I consider more of a movie, if that makes sense.
Like the Devil's Rejects and
The Devil's Rejects to me is a movie. Great. I do love the Devil's Rejects though. I do. But the one before that, based with that family, was as pure as a horror movie as you can get, which is Dr. Satan. Like that, because it's weird how it went from that into like a movie. Like it went to like a storyline.
Shootout and
you go shootouts and you're on the run and cops, and it takes away from the Dr. Satan part of it. But the first one, I think, was a tremendous. I liked it as far as what horror movies to me are. And I know you're not like a huge blood gore type of person, but to me, it was this sick family and doing these heinous things, and he had these unsuspecting victims over for dinner, and he's just talking shit, and he's just like, you don't even know what you guys got yourselves into. And then it's just the rest of the movie is just it's just horrible in the best possible horror way.
What's funny is like Rob Zombie is very polarizing, right?
Yes.
People either really like Rob Zombie or they like don't really mess with his movies. I don't really mess with his movies, but I understand why people that like that would love that. It's just not my genre, but if that was my genre, oh my God, I would love those movies. You get what I'm saying? Like, I understand. One of my buddies who also is all tatted up in horror movies, he has the shootout scene from Devil's Rejects, like a chest, like it's huge. I think it's on his ribs.
Right.
And he loves Rob Zombie, man. And I get it. Like, I don't think his movies are like horrible, but again, it goes more to, and again, they're people. Like some in his movies, he's done movies where they're not just people, but I don't really get afraid of people doing people things. I get afraid of shit that I can't understand or control doing,
And that's why I like Dr. Satan. I put that more in the horror category than the Devil's Rejects.
Yep.
The Devil's Rejects is what you said, mortal people, shootout, shit like that. I put it more, I guess, on the thriller side of it with, I guess touches of horror in it, but it went away from the horror thing. I do like Rob Zombie. He had a great interview with Joe Rogan, and a lot of it, he was talking about horror movies, and he was just, you could see he's a purist.
Yeah. I do like I'll tell you what, a lot of people, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, they got real bad reviews. His take on Halloween and Michael Myers, I liked it.
I saw that in the movie theater. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought his version of Michael Myers was. I don't think it was. I went and saw the rest. I'll tell you what. I hated the most recent one.
I didn't see the most recent one,
and I really liked when they brought Jamie Lee Curtis back. I'm talking about Halloween Kills. So the sequel of the.
There's so many different.
Yeah, they I did not like it, and I love Michael Myers, bro. I thought Rob Zombies was better than that, to be honest. So I watched some of his stuff. It's just
not a cup of tea.
Yeah. But there's worse movies out there for sure.
Yeah. I get that. All right. So I want to say, I'm going to start. While you think about yours, if you haven't already thought about yours, I'm going to go into like my little Mount Rushmore of the greatest horror movie characters, and I guess it just kind of goes to where my mentality is as far as like what the horror genre is. So like we said, Freddy Krueger. Sleep or you don't, damned if you do, you damned if you don't, you're fucked either way. Just an all-time great. I also have this one is the only one on my list that technically is killable, is Leatherface.
Yeah, but is he though? He is, but that's I vibe with that. Like, that's not a person breaking in.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's not. That's
wearing
not.
A face of something. No, that's something completely. Yeah, bro.
He's gonna mutilate you, cut your face off, wear it as a mask.
I mean, because Michael Myers too is like a person, but yep. So wait, so we got Freddy, Leatherface,
Jason, of course. That was going back to what your first one was. That was the first one I could remember. Just popping that tape in and watching Friday the 13th. The one after Friday the 13th 3, not the one that they hit the mother was the killer.
That was the first one.
Twist. Yeah, which was a good twist. Yeah. I'm talking about the one where dude wanted to dig him up and he was already dead. He was gone and dead. They woke him up. I think he stabbed him with a shovel or got hit by lightning, something like that.
When Jason was Jason,
yeah. Like that was always to me, like, forget when he went to Brooklyn and he's taking selfies by the Statue of Liberty. Like, forget that one.
Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy versus Jason was always, but as a kid, Freddy versus Jason was always the one. It's like Prince versus Michael. So it's just like when it happened, I saw it.
It was fun, bro. It was fun. I'll tell you, that's what I mean. That's horror. It doesn't. Yeah, it was fun.
It did stray away from like the horror genre. Like it became its own little thing.
Yeah.
So Jason, I'm gonna go Michael Myers again because again he's apparently human. Like I don't know. Like you can kill him, you can't kill him. He'll always be back. So I don't know. But just that stalkerish.
Yep.
Got Captain Kirk's face on him. Just you can't run from him. If he grabs a hold of you, it's over. Like, and just growing up, I grew up like those were just foundations of what a horror movie is. And finally, like I said, Pinhead.
Yeah. So how many faces are on Mount Rushmore? I sound like an idiot right now. 5. All right. So you did your research.
I did my.
I would have given you 4 and thinking that there was just only 4.
Well, I mean, even if there was, we could just chisel right next to it.
So you got Pinhead.
Pinhead, not necessarily Hellraiser the movie, because I wasn't like in it like that. Like you said, you're flicking through, it's like, oh shit, Hellraiser's on, and then you'd watch it. But the character itself, Pinhead, just from hell, just masochistic, just torturous. How he talked, just
oh my god, horrifying.
Brian bringing hooks, levitating hooks into people, like it was just
his the freaky line was what you opened the box, so I came. Right, that was the only reason he was there to kill you. You just messed with this box. It was that simple.
I didn't even want to mess with a Rubik's Cube after that for a little while. Hey, you know how to do this? No, just throw the Rubik's Cube. So yeah, those are my 5.
So what's ironic is I have 4 on my leg.
You
4
do.
of them you named, right? So my horror tattoo, which I can send you a picture. I don't know if you can edit it in or something.
No. I was gonna ask you that. Send me a picture so I can put it up.
So about this big on my leg, and they're holding the it's like a mugshot for all 4 of these. So they're holding the sign of where they came from.
It's a sick tat.
Yeah, I got Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, and Michael Myers. I think those 4.
Those are the founding fathers.
They have to be up there. I think that 5th is like that flex spot. And I do think that Pinhead deserves to be on that flex spot. But I also think you have to throw in like Candyman, I think could also be there.
I agree with you. And you can keep going. But I just want to say like Pinhead is... To your credit, he was the one I was trying to figure out the 5th one.
Yes.
And it came on. It just landed on Pinhead. But so I think, if not on Mount Rushmore, you put him, make a statue of him like Abraham Lincoln, just have the pins out.
Well, I think there's probably a group of villains that you could put there and have an argument for any of them. I think he's definitely one of them. I think Candyman has to be an honorable mention there. I think I didn't really vibe with it, but he is one of, I think, the kingpins of horror back then. Child's Play. How many movies can you make about Chucky? And back then it was pretty scary. I mean, especially if you saw it when you were 6 and you had the fucking doll in your room and your mom moved them around all the time. Like he would take up that 5th spot.
just the evil elf on a shelf.
Yeah.
I'm just chuckling because I could just picture like chiseled out heads on Mount Rushmore and like a big doll.
The little baby, yeah. So I think maybe those 3 could take that 5th flex spot. I don't know if there's any more because then there's like old school horror, which I don't mess with. And this is where you would have like your horror elitists be like, what about Frankenstein or Wolfman or like something like, you know, Dracula.
And I think they do fit in the horror category, obviously. Sure. And you could look at them as like the forefathers of it. You know, like I said, Wolfman, Dracula, because Dracula minus Twilight is, you know, it's just an, you know, it's figure.
My thing with that, right? And I think this is why they don't. I would argue they don't. Maybe Frankenstein, but Frankenstein's just kind of like a monster. That is, they made them feel more generic, where Freddy Krueger had a personality. You know what I mean? All the ones we talked about, like Wolfman could be any werewolf. Dracula could really be any vampire, right? Like if you watch a vampire movie, you're not afraid of Dracula. You're afraid of vampires.
I feel like werewolf and vampire you could put in a thriller category. Frankenstein you could put in like a sci-fi kind of thing, because it's like a scientist made him, and you know he's just slowly wreaking havoc around. But I get where you would pull him, you know, where you're kind of hesitant on putting him on a thriller thing.
Because like if you were gonna put a werewolf, you're just putting a werewolf. Everyone else is recognizable. Like that's Freddy Krueger, that's Jason, that's Michael Myers, that's a werewolf. Right? Dracula would be Dracula, but again, like, you know, people don't watch movies and they're afraid of Dracula. You're afraid of vampires, right? It's any vampire. So yeah, I would think those three. I would say Chucky from Child's Play, Pinhead from Hellraiser, or Candyman. Okay. I think, Candyman was like, I think Candyman did a lot of things, man. I think Candyman was, I understand why Jordan Peele tackled it again and tried to do the reboot, and Candyman was one of those movies that was so much more than a horror movie, bro. It was so much more.
I feel like those genres, the horror ones, like the great original ones, it's hard to do a remake. Just as hard as to make a sequel of it without taking something away from it.
Yeah. I mean, to reboot it 20 years after, it's 30 years after, 40 years after. It's that's also super hard because it's like it lived in the moment, you know? Like if they try to make a Blair Witch 2, and I know they did, but I mean like, because they do this with movies all the time. They're like, fuck, those sequels suck. So we're just going to make another sequel and act like the other ones didn't happen. And it's just going to go right back to that storyline, right? Like it's just going to, which is what Halloween did, right? Like Halloween kind of did that. They kind of got rid of some of those movies, the ones that Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't in. But I think like a lot of it is the time. And I think people forget that, like, we like nostalgia, right? But nostalgia is things are only nostalgic because it reminds you of a specific time. So it's hard to redo that. Make something else.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like when you're changing, you know, you're when you have the original horror movies come out, it's original. You're kind of just putting it out there. And if it's felt into a cult following or whatever, if you try to remake it, you're now trying to appease things. Yeah, you're right.
You make your sandbox smaller. And I'm not saying like, listen, I love those old movies, bro. I really do. I have them on my body forever. But there's really good new horror. Like every month, I go to the letter A, the word 2, Z, horror. So ATOZ horror.com. Okay. I have no affiliation with this whatsoever. And they put out a list of trailers for that month. So you can see the upcoming stuff. And they put everything out that's horror. So it could be something that's bad, that's kind of straight to DVD. And there's not DVDs anymore, straight to streaming.
There's not. I got a bunch of DVDs. I'm a caveman.
If I roll this way, there's a box full of DVDs right there.
Gotcha.
But and all the way to like the main stuff that you know it's going to come out because it's, you know, there's commercials and it's mainstream and it's in the theater and they put out all these things, and there's really, really good indie stuff. There's really good. I mean, Shudder, the subscription is like Netflix only for horror. I love it. It's where I go to watch everything. There's really good new stuff, man. And a lot of it's original. So I don't only like that stuff. There's so much good stuff that's been out, and talking about Midnight Mass before, and watching that series with my mom, that was really cool because my mom, she hates horror. I said the story about The Ring earlier, and it was something that we kind of were both able to watch, and it had to do with religion, which is kind of a hot topic for her, right? And
yeah,
I love horror, but it bridged that gap, and we both enjoyed it, and it was really, dude, it was fucking dope. It was cool to like share, and I was in a cabin with my mom, so we're watching it. We rented an Airbnb. Nice. And all of us are there and we're watching this and we're afraid and she's afraid and we're talking about it after. And it got me to look at religion in a way that I didn't. And it got my mom to look at horror in a way that she didn't. She's like, oh, it's not all blood and guts and gruesomeness.
Yeah, when I spoke to her about it, that was when I saw her. I think I saw her like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. And she was just like, Dan put me onto this movie and we were watching it. And at first she was just like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But at the end she was like, but God wins. So we're I was like, I'm okay with it.
That's her perspective of it. I'm not really going to spoil this one because it's new. It's not that obvious. That's how she interpreted it. And maybe I interpreted it in a different way. And maybe other people interpret it in a different way. But that's what makes a good song is all these people can relate to it and get what they want or need in depression. They can get what they need out of it. And me and my mom both watched the same thing, but we saw two different things. And it was really fucking cool. I wish I could like shake the hand of the people that wrote that because that was an awesome experience.
The different experiences for both of you, but the one thing that was the common denominator, and it goes back to what you said when we began, was rooting for the good guy.
Yep. Or rooting for anyone, but like
rooting for
who do you think is the good guy?
Yeah, rooting for evil not to win.
Yes. That's it. And that's exactly what we all did. We're sitting there and we're all, I hope he's not the bad guy. I really like this guy. I hope that's not the twist. Even so, the guys that you start to root for, you start to hope like, oh, don't make him the villain because I want him to be good. That's how, you know what I mean? That's how much I'm invested in this character. And having these debates, and not debates, but discussions about where we think it's going to go and you know, the bad ways that it can end. And that's cool when you like it so much that you hope the ending doesn't ruin it for you. You're that invested. You're like, damn, I hope that they wrote it this way, please. Which has me thinking about doing horror shorts because a lot of times that happens. And I know Arnie, I can use him as like, I could pick his brain and figure out how to do the whole film thing, but I think that's the next thing for me. I think I want to start doing this. You're the second person that I'm saying this out loud to, by the way.
Shit, no one's gonna stop you doing it but yourself, man.
There's I always watch these like 8-minute.
You have the equipment behind
yeah.
You. Just saying.
I'll save one. Like I got this one. But yeah, it's like it's cool because I find myself hoping that they write it this way, and then I think about how I would have done it, and I'm like, I don't think anything like that exists. And I've watched a lot of horror to pull from here, and then it ends up telling my story because that's how I thought about it. And then it got me to think of it from the other way, like, damn, these people that put out these horror movies, what story are they telling? Because they did it for a reason, right? That movie didn't exist before, so they did it. And why did they do it this way? And what does it mean to them? And what stuck with them? Because it's interesting, bro. I just think it means so much more than just making you afraid.
Well, look, man, this is not me blowing smoke up your ass. I love you to death. And I wouldn't tell you this if I didn't believe it. I feel like that's right up your alley. I feel like you can do that and be very happy and successful doing it. So I really hope you end up doing it, man. Because I appreciate that, man. I would love to watch it. Yeah.
Part of me saying it out loud is to hope that I do it as well, because I haven't done a project in quite some time, and I used to do a lot more of creative things, and I just feel like, especially since we're just doing this, it made me realize how excited I was just to share this. And if I could share that in a way where someone could watch it and be like, wow, that got me to think differently, or any of the things that horror was able to do for me, if one person sees it on fucking YouTube and they're able to take anything out of it, that would feel rewarding. You know what I mean? I wouldn't even have to be successful. That would be successful to me.
Yeah, man. As long as you can find whatever it is that's going to make you content, successful, like whatever you define it as, man. The older I get, you know, as much as we all love the money part of it and what money can be or provide, it's just a matter, you know, the older I get, it's just the things that's just going to make you happy.
Yeah.
and a little bit complete, like I did that, proud of yourself or whatever it is.
How crazy that making a horror movie would make me happy, right? Like I can't repeat shit like that enough, because again, this would be successful if I got someone that didn't watch horror to like find their thing and be like, all right, it's not all bad. It's not all bad. Fuck that human centipede garbage, but it's not all bad.
You gotta school the masses, man. You gotta set the youth in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've covered a lot. I'm thinking we're getting close to the end over here, but before we put a bow on this thing, I want to give you a list of other horror things that came to mind, and you already kind of named a couple of them, quite a few of them. And I want your opinion from a horror fan perspective.
All right, cool.
So, I mean, delve further in it if you want, but Chucky's on the list. I have an issue with, and I get as a kid this doll, having a My Buddy doll, like, she puts it by your bed, you wake up and it's fucking staring right at you, like after seeing Chucky. But I have a thing about dolls that I feel like I could just punt it across the room. And
they have in the movies. They have. You just kick them off. There's like some of the fight scenes are so hysterical because it's like very clearly someone holding a doll and like just making it like whip its legs around, and you're like, oh, that's a doll that he's just whipping around. And they chuck Chucky like a frisbee. But it was, what it was that was scary? It was the he's always coming. They buried him, chopped him up. He somehow got glued back together. You know what I mean? Because it was like a spirit in that thing.
And it's
I'm the same way.
It's a happy thing. It's a doll.
Yeah. That you can punt and throw like a frisbee. But he would just always find a way to get you somehow.
Make no mistake about it. I joke, I kid. I think I could whoop Chucky's ass. But you saying he's on that flex spot on the Mount Rushmore is justified. Like, I'm good with that.
I'm gonna be honest, I would put him third. My ranking for that flex spot would go Candyman, Pinhead, Chucky.
Okay.
Honestly. And Candyman, Pinhead, I think it's like have them flip a coin. It's really them two, and then like I could see an argument for Chucky in that time. If you grew up then and you watched it, they made so many successful movies, reboots, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's lasted this long for a reason. Some people like it.
I had Candyman on there, and we just talked about him. I put when Candyman, when you don't want to look into a mirror and say his name X amount of times just because you never know. I feel like the movie's been done justice.
I think the other thing with Candyman, and this will probably be the one that I dive into the most, and I'll try to keep it short because I know we're going long.
No, we can keep going. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I'm pretty much out of material that I wrote down.
With Candyman, it's like the problems I had with the new one is that they talked about gentrification a lot. They didn't show it. What the first Candyman did, that was amazing. And like, not for nothing, I mean, I was born in Yonkers. You lived there for a while. Like, it's not like it was sunshines and rainbows growing up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We saw a different version. But that original Candyman, instead of telling you what gentrification is, it fucking showed you. And it was like, oh, that's the hood. Oh my God. So you were afraid on two different fronts. And the story of Candyman, I won't ruin if you're going to go see the new one. I'll just kind of tell you what it would say on the back of the original DVDs. Is the whole thing's about social injustice, and it was done back then. And back then there were no black leads in horror, right? He's the only one I can think of.
Groundbreaking.
The story of, and it was back then too, where that wasn't popular, right? Like, I'm sure they got pushback for that. Back then, it was even hard to do what they did. And then the whole story is about him being mistreated because I think he was a slave, and it was back then in those times that he like fell in love with a white woman, and they fell in love, and there was nothing wrong with it. And, they found that out, and he got lynched and killed, and then became Candyman. The whole movie of Candyman is a reporter doing a story about Candyman, and they jump back to show you that happened. But the movie isn't about the origin of Candyman so much as it's about this gentrification. And the reason that Candyman exists in the original one is because he's killing people in the hood. And when people die in the hood, no one cares. So that whole storyline was like, what the fuck? Even as a kid, when I saw it, I saw what the ghetto looked like. And again, I'm sure it was their depiction of it, but they did a really good job of like, I would never want to live there. And then to have a white reporter go do this story and the Black community say, no, we don't say his name here. Like, no, we're not messing with that. And then to show, well, the reason that Candyman kills all these people is because they're just blaming it on the hood being the hood. It made me realize a lot of things that motherfuckers should know now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It didn't tell me what gentrification was. It showed me. And it was a horrifying movie. It was very, very scary. But even as a kid, I was like, oh my God, like that's crazy. And it could be true. And it's brilliant. And it's all these things. And I thought Jordan Peele was going to do more of that because he's done that in all of his other movies. He does this really good job of like, you end up finishing the movie and you're like, oh my God, that's such a point blank analogy to what's going on right now.
And Get Out, I believe was.
Yeah, it's just,
yeah,
Get Out and Us. You watch the movie and you end and you're like, oh, that's not that much different.
Did I just learn something? Well, you know.
Yeah, it's like watching Dave Chappelle stand up, bro. You end up like learning something out of it and you're like, in a way that he can get his message across the best is comedy. Jordan Peele, some of the best messages that he's gotten across has been horror. And the original Candyman, you want to talk, it did such a good job of that, bro. It did such a good job of like making you fearful on so many. You didn't even want this woman going into the hood to do the report. Like, oh my God, what the fuck's gonna happen to her? And it's like the wild, wild west out here. There's this guy with a hook for a hand that's gutting people and no one's listening to them. What other scenario would that be believable? And if it's not believable, you don't care if the characters die. If you don't care if the characters die, you're not pulled in.
Yeah, no, Candyman is groundbreaking, man. Like you said, Black horror movie villain in the hood, because you know it's either it's usually predominantly like 99% white in the suburbs or in a camp.
Yeah. And you know what else I've realized? Because I watched a movie called Vigil. If you're a horror fan, watch it right now. It's an amazing movie. It's a horror movie, but it's Jewish based. Every horror movie that has to do with religion, I want to say 99% of them are Christianity. This movie was so refreshing, and it taught me about like a different religion in a way that I wouldn't have been exposed to, and what like the devil or would look like to them. And I'm like, damn, I never thought about this, but like, it's all Christian. It's always about the Bible and it was so good, man. And Candyman did that, like, I mean, times a bajillion though. Like that movie it's amazing. And I didn't like watching it as a kid because it really, really, really scared me. But it's why when I started, I couldn't stop.